Good evening, and thank you for coming. I apologize for having you wait. We've compiled a great deal of information this evening from our first day on scene, and I'll be happy to share that with you. I'm Earl Weiner, a member of the National Transportation Safety Board. As you know, last evening our investigators began arriving on scene in Churchill County, Nevada, and began the investigation into this collision between an Amtrak passenger train and a semi-truck. But for background, the NTSB is an independent federal agency charged with investigating all aviation accidents, significant accidents in rail, highway, marine, and pipeline, and in particular issuing safety recommendations so that these accidents don't happen in the future. Before I go any further, on behalf of the NTSB, I'd like to extend our sympathies to the families of the victims of this tragic accident. The investigator in charge is Robert Acetta. Mr. Acetta spells his name A-C-C-E-T-T-A. He's a senior investigator in the Highway Division and is supported by members of not only the Highway Division but the Rail Division as well. The NTSB team of investigators will be looking at the following areas: motor carrier operations. This team will examine operations of the trucking company, including oversight by pertinent regulatory authorities. Vehicle factors. This team focuses on vehicle records, the truck equipment, whether the systems are all functioning properly, whether there are any recording devices that can provide data on the mechanical operation of the vehicle. Highway. This team will be conducting forensic mapping of the highway scene, identifying signage, grade elevations, and angles of the highway approach to the crossing. The human performance team will focus on the vehicle operator, following up on toxicology testing, driver history, training, and experience. Survival factors. This team will be examining the causes of injury and death, attempting to understand the dynamics of the collision as well as the causes of the ensuing fire. This team will also be reviewing the emergency response efforts. On the rail side, we have a signals team. They'll be verifying the integrity of the lights and the gates and the signaling equipment. Mechanical will verify all aspects of the train operation, the equipment rather, and the operations team reviewing the activity of the engineer and the crew. We'll not be determining the probable cause of this accident while we're here on scene, nor will we speculate about what may have caused the accident, that we expect to be on scene between 7 and 10 days. The NTSB has 18 people in the GO team, with 3 more to be added to the team shortly. In addition to our investigators, we have a family assistance specialists from the NTSB's Office of Transportation Disaster Assistance, and they've arrived on scene to provide support to the family members of the victims of this accident. As to the investigation, our mission here is to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, and to recommend changes to prevent it from ever happening again. Throughout the next few days, our investigators will work on scene to thoroughly document the accident site and gather factual information. As of this point in time, here's what we know about the accident. At about 11:30 on Friday, June 24th, a truck-trailer combination traveling on U.S. Highway 95 collided with an Amtrak passenger train, the California Zephyr, at a grade crossing near Merriam, Nevada. The truck combination hit the train, and a post-crash fire ensued involving at least 2 of the train cars. The train did not derail. Reports received from the from the emergency responders and local authorities indicate multiple fatalities and numerous injuries. The train involved was a 10-car train powered by 2 locomotives and carried approximately 210 passengers, according to the manifest. However, we've not been able to verify all of the people on the manifest. The motor vehicle itself was a truck-trailer combination, a double-bottom dump semi-trailer owned by John Davies Trucking of Battle Mountain, Nevada. They are an intrastate operator. They had a state compliance review in May of 2010, and we'll be looking at those records. The railway warning sign at the grade crossing was 897 feet before the crossing. The railroad pavement markings were 760 feet before the crossing, and there were skid marks which began at 320 feet before the crossing and continued all the way to the collision site. This highway grade crossing was equipped with a combination of crossing gates and mounted flashing lights. And frankly, this is the most advanced version of the grade crossing. And data so far indicates that all aspects of the crossing gates and lights and signals were operating properly. There was excellent visibility of the train from the approach on US 95. The truck that was involved in the collision was a dry bulk carrier. There were a convoy of 3 trucks. The 2 following trucks saw the signals activate at the crossing, and they took action, but noted that the lead truck did not stop, and in fact they were waiting for him to come to a stop. We have interviewed the train engineer, and his accounts to the investigators. In his accounts, he recalled the event clearly. He saw the truck approaching the train. At some point, he knew the impact was imminent. He, in fact, watched the collision in a rearview mirror, was hoping that the train was not going to derail. He also verified that the gates were down. He put the train into emergency braking. It took approximately a half mile to stop, which is a reasonable distance given the speed of 78 miles an hour, although that section of track is posted for 80 miles an hour.
How fast did you say the train was going?
The train was going approximately 78 miles per hour. Well, since we're just beginning the investigation, this is all the information we have at this point. We will keep you informed by providing updates as more information becomes available. One final comment, I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the first responders to this accident, including the Nevada State Police. They've worked very hard. We appreciate all of their efforts, and they've been extremely cooperative to the NTSB. And with that, I'll take a few questions.
Can you repeat the name of the trucking company and where that's from?
The trucking company is John Davies Trucking of Battle Mountain.
Battle Mountain?
Battle Mountain, Nevada.
And is it a standard spelling of John Davies?
D-A-V-I-E-S.
Amtrak says that you would provide us with the latest on fatalities and unaccounted personnel.
No, we won't.
You won't.
The Churchill County coroner is the person who will provide that information.
Okay, so you can't tell us if you found bodies, what you removed?
No, our role in this is not that. Our role is a safety investigation, and we leave that to the proper authorities.
Can you tell us how many of the...
There's been a very wide number and some unsubstantiated numbers out there. Could you help us at all to understand, are we talking 4 or 5, a dozen, 2 dozen, potentially, just so people have a general idea of what we're talking about?
Well, again, go to the coroner for that information, please.
And understand that, but you're in charge of the safety of Amtrak's operations to a certain extent.
Now, we're in charge of investigating this accident to understand what happened, why it happened. That doesn't necessarily include keeping track of the fatalities. That belongs to the local authorities.
Can you just tell us how many people are unaccounted for out of that 210?
It was about, do you recall specifically?
I think there was somewhere around 28, but we're still in the process of trying to verify if passengers did not get on the train, or if some passengers may have gotten off the train at other stops.
Why is there such confusion over the number of fatalities and unaccounted for?
Well, this is not quite like you're used to when you get on an airplane. They record exactly who gets on and what seat they sit in. A train, you can get on, get off without necessarily being tracked.
Would we have to go to the corner for the truck driver's name?
Yes.
Do we know anything else about the driver, where he's from, anything like that?
He lives local. He lives within the area.
Yeah, it lives within the area.
Northern Nevada area? Right.
As far as I know, yes.
So it is a male.
It is a male,
Do you have an approximate age?
approximately mid-40s.
I'm sorry.
And we're, that's an area that we will be taking a very close look at, is what the driver's professional commercial driver's license records are.
And were the other two trucks in the convoy that you mentioned, were they also from John Davies' truck?
My understanding was they were from the same outfit, all traveling as a convoy.
How far behind were they from the original first truck?
Specifically, I don't know that distance.
Do you have any briefings scheduled for tomorrow?
We're going to do a briefing tomorrow at roughly
Late afternoon.
late afternoon.
I'll put on that.
Can you repeat the part about the unaccounted for? That helps explain why there'd be some confusion about the number.
Well, on a train, as I said, unlike when you get on an airplane, where everybody checks a ticket when you get on, in this case, people can get on and get off, and not necessarily, not be recorded when they get off. And some people had bought tickets and didn't show up. So that makes this kind of a spongy number. We're going to be working in the next several days to try to narrow that number down as best we can.
What was the 28 number
That was just an approximation.
of people who are unaccounted for?
Who are unaccounted for.
Can you describe any of the injuries to the people who were hurt but survived?
No, I don't have any of that information.
Where's the accident? Where's everything going?
I believe the cars that were not damaged are being moved off to a siding and will eventually be put back into service after they're inspected. And the other cars are being relocated to a location near the track for the safety board and other investigators to continue their investigation within the rail cars.
One more question.
With the 28 unaccounted for, you want to make that clear. That doesn't mean that there's potentially 28 deaths, or does that mean that?
No, doesn't mean that at all. It just means that in terms of being able to account for, from the manifest to the number of people that are accounted for, there's that discrepancy. But again, people may have left the scene without being, without anybody being aware. And again, there are a number of reasons why that manifest and that number don't track.
Tomorrow, are you going to continue to look for bodies in the train? Is this ongoing, or are you finished?
That's an ongoing part of the investigation.
So
Yes.
you will be looking tomorrow also?
We'll continue that. But thank you very much.